Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Star Wars: The Acolyte. The Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace, but that peace is a lie. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-free review for Star Wars: The Acolyte, episodes 1 to 4. Special thanks, as always, to our friends at Disney Plus Canada and Lucasfilm for inviting us to watch these episodes early for review. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, and all things Geekcentric, and of course, all things Star Wars. It seems like more and more and more. Joining me for this mysterious and murder-filled spoiler-free review are my favorite Force wielders. First up, he's a jaunty Jawa-loving Jedi. He's Justin, the Light and Life Lawrence. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about this show. Finally, we've been steeped in it. So let's go. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah. I'm stoked that we're. It feels like we've been in it for a long time already, and now we're finally here, and we can share the love of this show with everyone else. But alongside him, I'm so happy because we've got my favorite fuzzy Force wielder. He's the dank, dewback loving holocron historian Hudson.
Wow.
I'll take that. It's very Jedi themed, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Appropriately so.
We're here with Jedi in this show. I remember when we were digging into Andor, it was like, oh, how refreshing that we're away from the Jedi. And then we got a little bit more Jedi action with Ahsoka. But here we are now in the High Republic. And, Justin and I self-admittedly haven't really dug into the High Republic stuff. But Darcy, you're our resident High Republican, not a Republican, High Republic aficionado. I don't think you call you a High Republican.
I just call him a know-it-all.
Know-it-all.
Yeah.
Know-it-all.
Know-it-all.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how does it feel, High Republic know-it-all, to be in this era of Star Wars in live action?
It's really exciting because reading the books, you can see that the Jedi, they're at the height of their hubris, basically. This is beginning of the end. You can kind of see where the Sith start to, pick apart their, perfect ideals almost and turn them against them. So it's really neat to see that we're finally exploring this in a live action format, and a wider audience will get to journey through the High Republic with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think when we saw the footage from the premiere, and I saw all the authors at the premiere, or most of the authors at the premiere, I was like, Darcy would appreciate this moment very much.
Oh yeah, it means that they at least definitely pay homage to what came before and what set up the High Republic, because the stories in the books with the Eye of the Nihil and all that stuff are incredible. So just knowing that they're looking at that and moving forward in this time that we don't know anything about, I'm so excited to see what comes next.
And it's funny how Lucasfilm very much operates like a hive mind. These comic books and other literature that help flesh out the High Republic era, it's informing this series in a lot of ways, and it's giving us a new point in time in the Star Wars universe that helps to add more depth to the stories we've already seen. So it's like you're saying, it's really nice to see that there's that collaboration and that appreciation for the stories that are being told on both sides to help make it more in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and I mean, not that anyone needs it going into this story.
No.
But if people did want to explore the High Republic more, who are coming into this show or enjoying these first few episodes, Darcy, do you know where you might recommend them to kind of start things off?
Well, again, the comics are a great way to just get a taste of the High Republic without, dedicating a lot of time, because the books are longer. But the series of the High Republic novels are where I find the best storytelling happens in the High Republic so far. It's where we get to see, again, the Jedi facing this unknown threat and how they deal with it. And again, you start to see the cracks in the armor that the Jedi seem to wear at this point in time.
Cool. Okay. All right. Well, Before we complete our Jedi training and you get to see our cracks, let me get to the synopsis for this series. From creator and executive producer Leslie Headland, The Acolyte focuses on an investigation into a shocking crime spree that pits a respected Jedi Master against a dangerous warrior from his past. As more clues emerge, they travel down a dark path where sinister forces reveal all is not what it seems. Star Wars The Acolyte stars Amandla Stenberg, Lee Jung Jae, Manny Jacinto, Daphne Keane, Charlie Barnett, Jodie Turner-Smith, Rebecca Henderson, Dean Charles Chapman, Jonas Suotomo, and Carrie Ann Moss. The first 2 episodes are out June 4th, 2024, which is tonight if you're listening to this the day it's released. And if you're listening to this within the hour it's released, well, listen, you don't have too much longer now to wait. Both of those episodes go live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Canada. And if you're in the UK, you do have to wait a little bit longer, but trust me, it's worth it. It's worth it. Let's dive into kind of some different things that worked and maybe didn't work for our first experience with this show, with this series. We got the first 4 episodes. We are going to be staying completely spoiler free. And I think I want to start off with kind of the thing that I think is everyone is freaking out the most about, and that would be the action sequences. I think everybody's been calling out that it's the highlight of the show, and it absolutely is. There's incredible action, incredible combat in the show. Huge shout out to Chris Cowan, Mark Ginther, Darren Knopp, Guillermo Crispo, and Jung Chang Liu, who actually did the training with Amandla, because this is some of the best combat I think I've ever seen in Star Wars, potentially ever. Like, it is getting up there with that Duel of the Fates moment the first time I ever saw it, which is funny because Darcy, you and I first saw the first scene from this show, after watching Duel of the Fates on the big screen on May the 4th, with the anniversary of the Phantom Menace. But I think this show, what's different is it's so unique, it's so fresh, and it's so grounded in what I can only imagine is the High Republic, and it gets your heart racing. It is just so exciting to see on screen.
Yeah, and I think for all those reasons of it being so refreshingly different from everything else that we've gotten in a combat situation. I know it's action by definition, but it's really just combat, and it's more
Mhm.
poetic. And
Mhm.
I feel like in a lot of ways the combat helps to distinguish a different time. The lightsaber is a more distinguished weapon that you don't necessarily just pull out, but it's about avoiding that conflict to fend off in a lot of ways, and it helps to just give us a different period of looking at this universe based on those I guess minutiae of how combat and action work in this era.
It's really reminding me of, again, what inspired the combat in Star Wars to begin with, in these classic samurai films, where it is very much a grounded martial combat that's going on right now. And again, they even talk about it in the show at one point about how this time of the Jedi, the lightsaber isn't that go-to weapon that they're known for. It's if you only draw it when you're ready to use it, type thing.
Mm.
So the way that is shown in these combat scenes, and that we're treated to very little so far, but what we get is so good and so rich.
And it's meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to kind of learn from interviews that a lot of it is actually Amandla in these sequences.
Hmm.
A lot of it is the original cast in these sequences. Shout out to all of the stunt teams that work alongside the actors, though, as well. But yeah, I think the idea of hand to hand combat, or the knives, or there's just a very clear inspiration too, from the Matrix. Justin, you said there was another film, I'm trying to remember now in our conversations, that you said it was very similar to.
Oh, Crouching Tiger. Yeah, no, yeah, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, because there's a push and pull energy that exists in that combat that feels very reminiscent in this show, in the Acolyte and the choreography, because they are using the force in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
the term that's been coined is force fu. You know what I mean? But it is martial arts with the force, and what does that look like? It's such a reimagining of the art form in a way of power sets and whatnot. So it's pretty cool.
The other area I want to applaud the show in terms of visuals, I think, it's interesting when The Mandalorian debuted and the volume was this new shiny thing from Lucasfilm. It was so exciting, and we were like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And it looked good at the time, and I think it just kind of got to a place though where it was overused, and I feel like that soured visuals for a lot of fans in the streaming era of Star Wars. And then Andor comes along, and we see these incredible practical locations and sets, and it's no different here. I think these sets and these locations look so tactile. They look so perfect for, again, giving us a sort of a for fans of the live action Star Wars who haven't gotten to explore the High Republic to be able to see that stuff. And whether it's a forest area, a snowy area, a temple,
Mhm.
just you can tell how big the budget is for this series and how much they've invested in this part of Star Wars storytelling.
But I think they've also clued in that that's what makes Star Wars so special is actually feeling connected to the spaces that they're in, because what the whole celebration of Star Wars outside of its achievements in terms of storytelling is its achievements in filmmaking, and how
Mm.
everything felt so, you know, like you were connected to it because it was tactile and it was real and it involved this process. Yes, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of effort, but it pays off in the end, especially if it's utilized properly.
Hmm.
If you design, in a way to accommodate the story. So, you can have the volume, you can have those things that help give more depth and more space to an environment. But if it's just that on its own, it doesn't work. You need elements inside of it that can, really people can interact with, and you feel it.
And it's weird. The visuals from this series are making me think of both the original trilogy and the prequels at the same
Yeah.
time. With the way that
Cool.
they, the visuals, like the what you're looking at, reminds you a lot of the prequels in terms of how things look. Stuff is still kind of shiny, and in that that High Republic era where stuff is still very positive, and they're in that unifying form or of that unifying time of the galaxy type thing. Whereas the practical effects take you right back to that original trilogy where they're shooting on location in these jungles and stuff like that, and it's just everything is, like you said, tactile.
Yeah.
And it's taken Star Wars to the next level again in the fact that we're returning to these locations that are very much earthly, but the way they capture them make it feel so otherworldly, and it's so cool.
And I'll shout out Neil Scanlon for clearly putting in the work, especially in the first scene that you're going to see in this show. The amount of with the sequel trilogy, it sort of felt like we got away from alien species in Star Wars, and so it's so refreshing not only to see them back again, but to see them in such great numbers and again all practical. And there's a character that he has to walk through a door and he has to duck down, and it reminded me of Darcy, who's that big tall guy from the Muppets.
Oh, Sweetums.
Sweetums. It kind of gave me Sweetums vibes, the way this puppeteer had to kind of maneuver through this small room as this big alien. But I'm loving it. I love seeing that, and I think that's another area where to your point, seeing having that feeling of prequel and original trilogy sort of melded together.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
it's definitely
It's what the prequels
there.
should have been, right? Like
Yes.
they
Yeah.
should have been able to add more to the galaxy through CGI while also still being committed to more practical tactile sets, right? So it's, yeah, it is what it is.
I still go back and forth on whether or not I prefer digital Yoda, or because digital Yoda, like doing the jumping around and jumping from Clone Trooper to Clone Trooper in Revenge of the Sith, that's pretty cool. But like that puppet Yoda from Phantom Menace is a little rough. That's the only area where I'm kind of, maybe I am a little more CG than practical. But
Sure.
let's talk about the performances in this show. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously we got to talk about Amandla Stenberg. I think she's outstanding on this show. I mean, you can't help but instantly fall in love with both sides of the character she's playing in this series. And there's a moment in episode 2 where you can see her. She has a moment where she turns around and she has tears in her eyes, and you can feel every emotion racing through her head. I think Amanda does such a great job with her face and showcasing those emotions in this show. I think she's rocking it so far.
I have to agree with you there. She's killing it. Like the fact that she is drawing us in with again this mystery being unfolded and stuff like that, and we don't really know much about her past or anything like that. We're still understanding every motive or decision she's making without spending much time with her. She is absolutely nailing, like you said, both sides of the character we're seeing in this show, and it's incredible. Like there's you can tell when she goes from one side to the other because there's a change in character at her core, and
Mhm.
it's so well done. She's doing a great job.
Yeah, she's definitely created two different characters with her portrayal, and it shows in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. And yeah, the mystery around her character is incredibly interesting, and she plays into that by giving us moments. And to your point, Nate, it's not necessarily like overacting; it's what her eyes can say in a
Yeah.
moment that really just stand out as being very committed to the character that she's playing.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of being committed, the character of Soul
Oh my god.
is clearly committed, and Lee Jung Jae is clearly committed. To hear that he had to learn English, like, for this role, he wasn't going to take it on. He's originally he turned it down. He only works with Korean speaking roles, which, like, that's totally fair. And then he
Hmm.
got the script, and that's what convinced him to come over and to learn so much English. What a dedication from this guy. He's one of the best parts of the show.
He is.
Justin, I know you've really been
Yes.
digging him.
Yeah, he is the best part of this show, in my opinion. He's the conflicted Jedi, if you will. And in my reaction tweet, I commented on how Jedi Master Soul feels very Qui-Gon esque
Hmm.
in terms of his portrayal, and we'll talk about story and other things later. But you think about all those archetypal elements within Star Wars movies, and that Qui-Gon character, or even that Obi-Wan character, that's so integral to the Star Wars story because it's challenging the norms of what the Jedi believe, and that's very much what Jedi Master Soul is doing in the show. The fact that he learned English for this role, and really he brings it in his portrayal of
Yeah.
just his emotions and his feelings. Like, we haven't, like you said, Darcy, we haven't spent much time with these characters as we kind of go through and we unravel different layers of what's going on, and the times that we spend with them, they're really making it worth. And every scene with Lee Jung Jae is just, it's absolutely stunning. He's so good. He's so good.
Mhm, and like you said, we're getting that a Jedi who is letting his emotions kind of guide him, which is
Hmm.
what we got in Qui Gon, and knowing the Jedi, that is something that they are very against. So it's always really exciting to see one of these masters be very human and have those emotions and deal with them on a daily basis. So again, like you said, I haven't got much with these characters, but what we do get with them, they are just nailing it, and 100% you want to know more about the story and why they are where they are right now. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's a rock star, and his chemistry with Amandla in these scenes, I think, is peak Star Wars
Yeah.
Mhm.
performance.
Yeah.
Speaking of someone who looks very much like a rock star in this show, I want to talk about Manny Jacinto as Chimere. Knowing him mostly as Jason Mendoza from The Good Place, and I'm rewatching The Good Place now that we've kind of been seeing him in this show, and he is just so different. He's just it's a completely different character. Which, I mean, I get it, he's an actor, but it's just so weird to see. He acts like his character acts like he knows nothing, but at the same time, he seems to know so much. He's got this very chill attitude about him in a lot of moments too, and yeah, it's such a different role for him than what we've seen so far. But I think he's just so intriguing, and he's one of the most he's the character that I'm like, okay, I need to know the most about this guy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To your point, Jason Mendoza is his character, right? On The Good Place.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the polar opposites of those characters and what we're getting here, it really shows Manny Jacinto's ability to just become another character. There's just so much ease and relax in the way he's portraying Chimere, and yeah, it hit the mystery around him is definitely intriguing.
Mhm. I mean, Star Wars is great with all the Jedi and everything like that, but what also makes Star Wars great is the scum and villainy we get to see, and he seems to be kind of our window into that almost underworld of this era. And I'm loving everything we get from him. And like you said, Nate, his whole not knowing anything but always having the right information
Yeah,
for the time is just it leads you to want to just spend more time with the character. And whether it's for a good thing or for a bad thing, I don't care because he is just like, killing it. Like again, like watching Good Place, I always knew that he was a good actor because you have to be smart to be that dumb. And just
yeah,
seeing him getting to flex his acting muscles with this role, I am so stoked to see where he takes his character.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I do also want to shout out Daphne Keene as Jackie Lon. I think she's the youngest in the cast, but she also her character is very much wiser beyond her years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We talked about the subtle acting from Amandla. I mean, there's very much subtle acting from her, but I think to a different on a different level in a different way. I think she's saying one thing with her face, but sorry, she's saying one thing, but then look at her face, and it's very much she's emoting something very different, like how she feels about any certain situation with Yord. She's just like, oh, Yord, like this overachieving idiot, like, oh, I got to deal with him, and it's just great to see, and I love those really subtle moments with her and her acting choices. She's a great addition to this cast, and I'm excited to see where she goes as well.
Yeah, she's definitely like the Hermione Granger of this show,
I
like,
like that.
and I think that, yeah, to the point, like, everyone knows Daphne Keene for a variety of different things, but everyone really knows her as X-23 in Logan. And the character that she plays there is intense and vicious, and if you haven't seen her in anything else, you don't really understand, it's almost like this whole situation with Manny Jacinto, right? Where it's like it's so polar opposite from the character that you would know them, that it's refreshing, and it shows these actors' capabilities to become these characters, to take them on in a way that allows them to believe them to the point of where we already know and love them, and other stuff. So it's cool. It's really cool to see Daphne being able to bring this character to life in her own way. And like you said, it's like she says one thing and acts a different way with her
Yeah.
body language. It's very like teenage, like
It's
angst
very
a little
it's
bit.
yeah, it's
She's like,
very Gen Z. Like it's
yeah, exactly. That's she's actually really relatable. And Charlie Barnett as Yord, you
Yord
know,
Fandar.
yeah, Yord Fandar, he's like, again, like he's kind of like, I guess, a mix between like a Ron Weasley and a Malfoy in the sense of like ego, right? He's just an overachiever, right? So
Yeah, he's just a house prefect who just wants to
yeah,
get all the points
he
and win the house cup type thing.
exactly, and he wants to do that. And I that dynamic's really interesting because they're going to have some serious character growth, I think, in this
Hmm.
show, based on the events and where they're at in their journey. So yeah, it's a relatable element for the audience to really connect with.
And so far, there's not been, you say their journey over the course of this show. Normally, we would say season, but I mean, there have been so many interviews where they have just casually referenced or mentioned season two. And not that anything's been greenlit. And I understand, obviously, as an actor, you're always hopeful that there's going to be a season two. So why not casually mention it until it is a reality? But it's something to me, and from what we've seen so far, makes me feel like we are going to
There's
hopefully
more stories to
get more
tell.
stories.
There's more
Yeah.
Hmm.
stories to tell, and I think that that's like, that's really good to know about when that it wasn't just thought as a one season one and done. There was more thought to the idea of telling something that feels like, that's again inherently Star Wars, a multi-tier story that helps flesh out conflicts and character developments and stuff.
Well, on that note, let's talk about again, spoiler free, not much to really be able to talk about for the story, but I want to kind of talk about the story. Obviously, this era that we're talking about, the High Republic, the tone, the pacing. I think this is where for myself and Justin, I know you and I have talked. There is a little bit of in terms of the tone for this show. There may be a little bit sort of that felt a little misleading, at least from the marketing,
Sure.
where we've talked about the idea of hoping for a story and a series that steps further into the murder mystery genre of it all, and maybe a little outside of the campiness of Star Wars. But I know our thoughts kind of shifted on that back and forth as we watched these 4 episodes.
Well, I think initially when I sat down to watch it, I was definitely anticipating something tonally different. Not Andor all the way, but like diving in and taking itself more seriously within the genre that it was trying to capture. So, like you said, Nate, the murder mystery.
Mhm.
So maybe it's more True Detective to a certain degree, but with Jedi's and stuff. That's what I thought. I was definitely surprised upon initial watch how much of the murder mystery blended into as you described it, Star Wars camp, or just the archetypal elements that are Star Wars.
Hmm.
So it didn't veer too far, and it definitely threw me off. But upon second viewing, now knowing and anticipating it, I'm actually really surprised at how well they were able to take elements of murder mystery and still keep the signature Star Wars elements at play. You could look at Andor as going so far into it that it loses a little bit of the Star Wars-ness. There's elements that are still at play, but here we have the right amount of murder mystery and the right amount of Star Wars for 4 episodes at least. It's it could get super campy down the road, but I think the thing to remember is that this is a series that is told by Star Wars fans. There's been a lot of information that has come out about like behind the scenes and with Leslie Headland behind this project, the writers' room being consistent of different iterations of Star Wars fans, even some like that don't know Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? To get a different sense of context around the storytelling that's happening within this show, and I think that's why we might anticipate more stories to tell in future seasons. But for now, what it's clear from all aspects of at least from a story and tone vibe is that it is cohesively playing in the Star Wars galaxy. Doesn't veer too far. So for all those people who might be like, Andor was not Star Wars enough, this will be different. It'll still have that murder mystery, but still have that Star Wars charm.
Again, I think the murder mystery is what we all thought we were going to be getting, but
Mm.
it seems like the mystery behind what's really going on in this era is the story that's being told. And again, that's why I love the High Republic, because we are seeing the Jedi thinking they're infallible and they can do no wrong, and how those cracks in the armor are exploited by small factions to have devastating effects. And I think it's really cool that we're starting to unpeel these layers to see how when when Palpatine, turns the Republic into the Empire, how did that come about? And it's because it was like years,
100
hundreds of years
years
in the
of
making,
in the
type thing.
making. Yeah.
It was not a quick turnover. It was a slow and steady decline in terms of what the Jedi meant and what they stood for. So we're getting that story here, and I cannot wait to see how they dive into it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're layering in that darker side
Hmm.
more and more, and I think I think at this point and from our the discussions that we've had back and forth, I'm just very hopeful that that's going to continue to get darker. Not that the camp goes away completely, but that we kind of
It's a
I just don't
gradual. It's a
yeah, I just don't
gradual
see a
getting to it.
world in which it doesn't get darker going forward. And obviously, I'm not going to say anything more than that in terms of trying to stay away from spoiling anything. But I want it to get scary. Like I want it to get scary. I want that maturity to kind of yield its ugly head, and I'd love to feel scared watching Star Wars, because I don't think that's something that I got from a vibe from the trailers, and it's not something I really have gotten from Star Wars, other than maybe Darth Vader hallway sequence in Rogue One, right? That was he's you're on the edge of your seat, you're taken aback a little bit, and I'm hoping that we can get to a level of maybe a bit more horror, even or thriller in this series.
We could, like, I think we're definitely gonna hit thriller territory. I don't know, like, I think I'm not looking to be scared. I'm looking for really interesting twists with a dark center to it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that dark center of what we're trying to unravel, and as Darcy said, like the sort of birth of this uprising of the Sith, uh that to me is the compelling mystery. And yes, you're right, like there needs to be a darker tone because we're focusing on the darker side of the Force. um I don't need to be scared. I just think that it needs to again, it's just a matter of how much it takes itself seriously. There's fantastic moments in these episodes so far that it takes itself very seriously, and when it shifts into sometimes that Star Wars camp, sometimes throw you off just
Yeah,
because of the tonal
it's a bit
shift.
jarring.
It's a bit jarring, but
Yeah.
it still works to a certain degree, and I can at least appreciate the fact that they didn't try to just be like Andor and say we're going to go full into this. They're trying to stay within the camp of Star Wars, and it shows. I will say though, from a pacing standpoint, um, I did find the first 2 episodes a little clunky in terms of like the story that they were telling, because the first two episodes feel like they need to get a lot of information in
Hmm.
for you to get up to speed. And because of that, scenes don't necessarily feel like they are feeding into each other. They just feel like they're there to, like, here's one piece of information, here's one piece of information, here's one piece of information. So the first two episodes definitely felt a little more structured to give you a lot of info. And then 3 and 4 are really great episodes, and it does find its footing, and it shifts gears and it stays a little more focused. It might be something to anticipate as we move through this season, just a lack of consistency and structure to the pacing of the overall story.
I agree that this one's a very slow burn in terms of getting going to where you want to watch the next episode and see what comes next. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the mystery they're telling and what their goal of the show is to be. Like, again, we kind of got that with Ahsoka, where she has no Jedi and she doesn't want, she doesn't believe in light or dark. There is just the Force. This show seems to be really driving home the fact, again, to question what we believe in terms of light side and dark side. Is there a right side, right or wrong in that
Yeah,
equation, and how do people see that? And I feel like again, with the pacing in the show, they really, by the time we see that fourth episode, you understand that you are supposed to be questioning who the good guys are in this story. And I again, it's interesting that the first two episodes are very heavy handed with the exposition, because the next episodes you get are so solid and strong at continuing that momentum. It's almost like, again, they had to get that out of the way so they could get the ball rolling for the later
for sure.
story.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I felt like the ending of episode 1 works really well. I felt like the ending of episode 2 just happens. And then
Hmm.
3 and 4, to your point, Justin and Darcy, like, I feel like they maintain a proper level of beginning, middle, end, and we get the sort of that feeling of, okay, I need to see what happens next, which is great. And I will say, in a lot of the interviews that I've seen with the cast and Leslie, they're saying that there is a reason that they only gave press and critics the first 4 episodes, that there is so much more to come, which I know, why would you say anything other than that from a marketing perspective? But hey, it's got me excited. It worked on me. So yeah, I think the show has the ability to get to a better place in terms of pacing, especially now that, like you said, Darcy, we've kind of gotten over the hump of
Yeah.
Hmm.
that of the information that we need to set things up, and
Yeah.
now we're ready to knock them down, and I'm excited to see how that goes. But let's get to our kind of our final wrap up, our final thoughts here on these first 4 episodes. And I'd love to know from each of you. We're not going to give a score for these 4 episodes. In fact, we won't actually be giving a score even in our watch clubs for each episode. We're simply going to wait until the finale to give our overall score. But I'd love to know for both of you your final thoughts, and maybe what episode out of these 4 you can't wait for fans to see. And Darcy, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving this series. Again, it took me a while to get into, but I'm really glad we had the four, because once you hit that third episode, the pacing writes itself, I feel, and then you really are on board. And episode three is really the one that I'm excited for people to see, because while there is some really cool moments in episode four, episode three gives you, again, it lays the foundation for you to start questioning who you should be believing, what side you should be taking in this story. And I just love the way that they explore some of the history of these characters in that episode. So yeah, the series is doing a really good job of exploring the High Republic, in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this journey goes next. Because again, in this the height of the Jedi Order, when they're so strong, I can't wait to see how the chips are exploited, or like those cracks are exploited to start bringing about their downfall, or at least a minor setback at this point in time.
Yeah, my final thoughts for these 4 episodes, I think they are definitely refreshingly different from other sides of Star Wars that we've gotten, while also feeling holistically a part of the galaxy at the same time. It's bringing something new to the table. It's opening a whole new timeline, an era that can be focused on and thought out to help, again, flesh out the movies and stories that we've already seen, and where the galaxy is at those points and why. The choreography in this is obviously one of the highlights, as well as the performances. Again, Amanda's killing it. Lee Jung Jae is doing his thing and absolutely just bringing such energy to this performance. But like I was saying before, like, Leslie Headland, the entire team behind this, they're fans of Star Wars, and it shows in a lot of ways. And I think while the pacing and choices maybe in the first 2 episodes have me kind of like wondering what to anticipate, maybe there's going to be more of this sort of piecemeal like clunkiness to it. But I think, to the point of what Darcy was saying, episode 3 is the episode that I'm looking forward to audiences seeing, because I think it does really get the ball rolling faster than the first 2 episodes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think in a more proficient way, obviously. And yeah, that would be the episode that I would choose as well, episode 3.
Yeah, I think these first 4 episodes have really, like we've been saying, established a great base for a story that is just going to escalate week to week as we get deeper and deeper into what's actually going on with these characters and with this dark master, and how Amanda's character plays into it all. I think, fans are going to love the action, the exploration of the Jedi scene in this timeline, and the continued exploration of the Force, the balance of the Force. What does it all mean? Light side, dark side. What does that actually mean? And I want to see it. I do. I will say, as much as you're saying you don't want to be scared, Justin, I know you don't like horror movies. You never go to them with me. It's very upsetting. But I will say, I would like to see a little. I'd like to see it get a little more intense. I think it will get a lot more intense. That's my hope for this show, and I think we're gonna get there. I think fans are gonna love the opening scene in episode 1, the sequence that, if you've gone to the Phantom Menace anniversary screening, you'll have already seen some of it, but you haven't seen all of it. And wait till you do. But I think outside of that, just like you two said, episode 3 is going to be the one that I can't wait to see the speculation just pop off. Like, that episode is so full of just little tiny things that if you're really paying attention, you can just sort of go in all sorts of different ways with it. And I'm excited to see the theories that come out of that episode. And I can't wait to talk about it all in our watch clubs. But that is it for this spoiler-free review and discussion for the first 4 episodes of Star Wars The Acolyte. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this series or any of the shows or movies we cover, well, you don't need to seek revenge for a mysterious reason. Instead, Justin, can you let the geeks know how they can reach us by holomessage?
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if you want, you can reach out to us on Twitter, or X as they call it, as the cool kids call it, at GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies and TV shows, including our recent spoiler-filled discussion for the finale of X-Men 97. Talk about a phenomenally written show. And, of course, our spoiler-free reviews for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Doctor Who, Star Wars Tales of the Empire, The Fall Guy, Netflix's Dead Boy Detectives, and Prime Video's Fallout. We also have our watch club, as I keep bringing up, for this series. It's debuting tonight, shortly after the first 2 episodes drop on Disney+. Justin and I got deep into these first 2 episodes, and I'm also really looking forward to, as I mentioned earlier, discussing episode 3 and 4 with you, Darcy, on the round table. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to get your insight into what's really going on in this show. It's going to be hard not to talk about it while we're not recording, but we'll be releasing new Watch Club episodes weekly as the show continues its first season run on Disney+. We also have some great interviews out now, like our most recent interview with Amanda Stenberg and Manny Jacinto, where I got to sit down with them. Thank you so much to Disney Plus Canada and Lucasfilm for inviting us to be able to chat with these incredible performers. I got to sit with them and talk about who their Star Wars person is. We talked about why Manny loved visiting the dentist as a kid. And we also dig into the themes of duality in this show. And we even talk about Star Wars fashion. So check out that interview, as well as all of our interviews, both here on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. We've got some more interviews coming up. If you're a fan of animation, like we are, we've also got some animation-centric interviews coming soon. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It helps us so much. We've got a ton of great stuff coming at you this month as the hot geek summer keeps getting hotter. June is going to be wild. There's like 5 things going on in my head that I'm just like, oh my gosh, that show's coming out in June. That show's coming out in June. That show's coming out in June. So we're going to do our best to cover all of the Geekcentric things for you. So hopefully you'll tune in. Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this mysterious, force-filled, spoiler-free review and discussion. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Peace.